What's going on, guys? It's Alex here. So today we're going to be answering another commonly asked question that I get all the time, and that is, how the heck do you clean your strops after they get all gunked up with compound? Plus, stick around because I have a bonus tip at the end of the video. Alright guys, so this is a close-up look of the strop. I actually have maintained the strop fairly well. This strop doesn't necessarily need to be reconditioned at this point. I'd actually use it a little bit longer, but for the sake of this video, because I get so many questions about this, we're going to go ahead and recondition it now. And I'm not sure if this is going to come up on camera, but you might be able to see kind of a grayish streak. That's where the metal has been removed from the knife. And again, I'm not real sure if you can see this, but hopefully it'll come through. You can kind of see like a glazed look to the top of the strop. I typically don't like my strops looking like they've got kind of a glaze on them. I like them relatively rough, almost as if the leather was fairly new. That just kind of suits my needs best for the type of sharpening that I do. So the first thing that you're going to need are some razor blades. Here's a quick tidbit of information for you. These are carpet blades, carpet razor blades, and if you need a very sharp utility knife, buy yourself a carpet knife and buy carpet specific razor blades. These are a lot sharper than your average everyday disposable razor blades. They do sell these in the big box stores like Home Depot and Lowe's, but they sell them back in the carpet department, not up front with all the tools with all the other razor blades. Now, I like using a relatively new blade for this purpose. You don't want a razor blade that's super dinged up or super dull. You want the edges to be in relatively good condition. Now, it should probably go without saying that if you are using a double-sided razor blade like this, be very careful doing this. These are extremely sharp and you can and will cut yourself if you use a double-sided razor blade like this for this purpose. I just cut myself. So we're just going to take a razor blade, we're going to angle it backwards slightly. We're not going to cut into the strop. So angle it backwards and simply drag it along the surface of the strop. And there you can see all of the compound, all of the old compound that we just removed from the strop. I typically do a couple passes. And there is our resurfaced and reconditioned strop. So how exactly do you reapply a compound? Well, I've been experimenting with different methods on applying compounds to strop, and honestly, the best method that I've come up with so far is to simply take the compound bar and rub it directly into the strop. Literally that simple. You can use things like cutting board oil or mineral oil to help cut the compound down and help it soak into the strop a little bit, but honestly I haven't really noticed that much of a difference in doing that, and it seems like it just gets everything all messy and doesn't really help much. So I just rub the compound directly into the strop and forego the oil. Another quick tip, don't set your compound down just anywhere. Keep this bar nice and clean. You don't want to contaminate the bar. So there we have it. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much exactly how I recondition my strops every time. I do this more often than not. I try to not let them get super built up. And the reason I do this is because I like my stropping surface with a little bit of the leather grain. I don't know what you call this, but the leather fibers kind of sticking up off of the strop. I usually strop at relatively low angles, and that just seems to work the best for me and my particular sharpening needs. If you know a better way to do this, let me know in the comments. If you know a different way to do this, again, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. So this same principle actually works with buffing wheels. However, rather than a razor blade, we're going to be using a chisel. Again, the chisel needs to be in relatively good condition. You don't want huge chunks taken out of it or anything like that. But pretty much any chisel will work. This is a junk chisel. I do not use my good chisels for this. This is just one I have lying around for doing things like this. These buffing wheels can get caked up with compound pretty bad and need to be cleaned, because a buffing wheel that's all caked up and nasty will not do a very good job at buffing. I do this often when I'm using my buffing wheel. It just keeps it nice and fluffy and in good working condition. So a quick note about this. This is extremely dangerous and it will kill you, so do not attempt this. Also, always wear eye protection when dealing with a buffer. Alright, so I'm going to have to do this voiceover because you can't hear me talking over the sound of the buffing wheel. But anyway, you're going to want to grab firmly, and I repeat firmly, a hold of the chisel during this buffing wheel cleansing period. Once you have a firm grasp on the chisel, basically lightly touch it to the buffing wheel. This is not rocket science, and I think most of you can understand what is going on here. We're just taking kind of a sharp object and using it to scrape off the compound from the buffing wheel. The key here is that you're not going to want to use something super flimsy to do this with. An old chisel works perfectly well. Don't do this with a spackle knife, with a razor blade, or anything flimsy like that, because the thing's going to jump back and forth on you like crazy, and could wobble back and forth enough and snap in half and throw pieces everywhere. So you're going to want to do this with a relatively stiff piece of metal. It doesn't have to be a sharp edge, but it does have to be somewhat of an edge in order to scrape off the old compound. Another thing that's super important is you always want to angle the chisel slightly downwards if the top of the wheel is spinning towards you, which is the way that most buffing wheels spin, unless your grinder spun around in the opposite direction and the top of the buffing wheel is spinning away from you. In any matter, you never want the sharp portion of the chisel angled into the incoming wheel. Hopefully this makes sense. If you have any questions about this, ask me in the comments below and I will try and answer them. Again, if you know a better way to do this, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. So that concludes our video today. If you like this video, please like it. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, and also share this video. It really helps out me and the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.